Oh my word. Look who is here bright and early on a Sunday morning, so to speak. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. With me today is Steve Young 74 from the Everywhere with Steve Young 74 channel. He has had this YouTube channel going on how long in October, Steve? 3 years. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe it. We're going to be talking about something that has been of utmost importance to Steve in a minute or two. So stick around. Hang on. Steve, that intro gets me every
hmm
single time. It is the silliest looking thing, but I love it.
It is.
But you know what is not silly, Steve? Recently, you did a video on your channel, and I'm going to hook that video up in my description box below. So after you watch this, check it out. Don't forget. Steve, what do you like basically talk about? A condition that you live with all your life. What is
Mhm.
it that we're talking about here?
Well, if you revert back, what was it, a couple of days ago, I had put up a video where I talked about a hereditary disease that I was born with called tuberous sclerosis, or TSC for short. Um, you know, the video will definitely explain. The only thing that I might have left out of the video is the very, very beginning. I didn't really mention the very, very beginnings of it. So to catch you up on that, when I was about let's see, 3.5, maybe 4 months old, my mom was outside hanging up clothes. My sister was outside watching me, and from what I understand, it was a little bit of a windy day. I was in the baby carriage, and I think my sister had looked away or got a little preoccupied or something. And what had happened is the baby carriage was like on a little bit of a slight hill. And when it went down, somehow I fell out of the baby carriage and I hit my head on some small little rocks, you know.
Oh,
And from there, that led into seizure attacks and things like that. And, from that point on, I would be going to a military base in Wiesbaden, Germany, yearly to get seen to find out what was wrong with me. That was the only detail about my condition that I didn't mention. I was put on phenobarbital and things like that along the way. And then finally, after going back and forth with the CAT scans and everything I had to go through at the time with the seizures, then again on that one day, July 24th, 1978, that's when they drew the conclusion that I had or had gotten diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis. Um, Reverting back to my medical record, there was a suspicion of it a year prior in 77. There was a suspicion about it, but they really hadn't, I guess they hadn't really put all of their facts together. So I wound up, as you know, I live with this condition day in, day out. It does have its ups and downs. I've learned how to, with the case of my eyes, unless, like I say, if you didn't know or I don't tell you, you would never know in 100 years that in my right eye, I'm 2400. You would never suspect that. You would think my vision in both eyes is the same. No, it's not. But
you are correct, Steve. I would never ever know because it seems like you're fully functional. This is very interesting. The origin of the story, the way the suspicion the year prior, and keeping a watchful eye out, I suppose, in general, the whole thing. But, that had to be very challenging to say the least. Obviously for you, without a doubt, but also for your family. I'm just saying. I would imagine.
Well,
That had
yes, it was hard on both of my parents. Yes, and like I said, I myself, I can tell you this. I never. This is getting personal about myself, but I've already said that enough in that video, and there's some others that I had put up about a year or so back. Never got married, lived at home. My parents were pretty watchful of me. They were worried about me. They were scared that something would happen to me if I happened to, go off and do something on my own because yes, anything can happen in life. Anything is unpredictable. Sure, we can step out and a piece of ice or something hit us on the head and that be the end of it. But in my case, because I was told I could, I hate to use these words, but it's what was told, I can drop dead from 1 minute to the next. So
wow.
we all have the ability that a piece of ice or a brick can hit us on the head. In my case, it's even more so. So my so I lived at home. I never got married, never had any children, nothing like that. I chose not to have any children because I did not want to put a child through what I had to go through. Even though at that time I know I'm seeing more cases of it now, it's based on that time frame. Might even be now. It could be more so that it shows up. It could be further apart. I really don't know. But based on what I know, every seventh generation it can show up.
Wow.
So that was just a chance. It's a 50-50. It's like a little bit of a, you know, throwing the dice and hoping for the best. But I hate to look at it on that scale, but so far nobody in my family aside from me has got it. Thank God.
Thanks God. Steve, what would be your takeaway from, living with, a medical challenge? I mean, I could see things from my perspective. For example, I would say this probably teaches people about what real priorities are in life, and what's really important versus what's not all that important. What would be your takeaway from, living with this medical condition?
What would be my takeaway? Well,
Like any lessons learned? I mean, do you have any recommendations for anyone that is facing not just that specific medical condition, but would you say that just to be prepared for anything, all of us in life, that life can change at a moment's
it
notice?
can. It can. I do know this. I'm glad that I learned about the condition when I did. I think it would have affected me older if I would have found out about it later. If I would have found out about it later, I think it would have been worse on me. You live your life and then all of a sudden that's dropped in your life. So I am glad that I found out about it earlier on than when I did, and I was aware of it. No, that I'm happy about.
You see, Steve, you bring up a really good point. Knowledge is
It
power.
is, yeah.
You see? So that's where I was kind of driving with the takeaway from me
Were
listening.
you okay?
Yes, and I want to first of all thank you for being, showing, candor about this, which is very kind of you to do that. Sometimes people just take things at face value, and that could be a mistake. Steve, before I want to switch gears for a minute and go into the financial arena, I don't want you to think I'm like, oh, well, just
Yeah.
turn this thing off. I would like to know, is there anything in reference to this specific topic that you would like to add?
Well, the only thing that I didn't mention is, yet. I mean, I can be pretty self conscious about what I have. In addition, I also failed to mention I've also got like bumps on my scalp. So when I go to get a haircut, and even on the back of my neck, they have to be extremely careful, and I have to keep my hair at a certain length in the back to keep it covered. That's one thing. And when they, if they're not careful down toward the bottom, because I do like a tapered haircut usually, they have been known to break one of these little, on the back of my neck. And sometimes it can't be helped. Everybody says, "Oh, but Steve, you can go to a dermatologist, blah blah blah." Yeah, I know that. sure, I could do something about this. But I also go back to the old saying, if it's not broke, why fix something? Just leave it alone. I'm not, that's why I am who I am. This is what I am. This is what God created me as. So be it. I have no
Right.
problem with it. But what I have been, or I have dealt with, is I have had little children stare at me. They don't know what it is. And it's understandable from a child's point of view, like five,
Right.
6,
Because
4.
kids are curious.
And I have this couple that I know, and they had two little boys, and they were curious about me. This is when they were young. They're much older now. They're like teenagers. I think the oldest one may be approaching graduating high school at this point. But when they were smaller, you know, when they were probably 6, 7 years old at that time, I had spoke up and I said, I have this condition. I said, it's called this right here. I told them what it was, tuberous sclerosis. I said, God made me to be somebody special. I told them I had to think of a way to come across to tell them to where they would understand me. I had to pick certain words. I said, I'm a special person. God gave me this condition. It's something that I would not want anybody else to have. You don't want this. But just know that with me having what I have and what I deal with, yes, I have things that I deal with along the way, but just to let you know that I am okay. So I had to, and that was back about 12 years ago when I said that.
Very well put.
So I had to pick certain words to come across to a child without being too scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Before we move on to the other topic, I just want to really sincerely from the bottom of my heart, we've been friends, Steve and I have been friends for a number of years. But it's one thing to have like a personal conversation, one on one with a friend, but it's another thing to have the courage and the strength and the bravery to
Yeah.
be on a public platform because unfortunately we live in such a judgmental situation in life. It's just,
We do.
which
And
is awful. It's awful.
yes. And I am noticing on certain social media platforms that there are groups that pertains to my condition. So apparently other people are finding out that they have it. Um, you know, so maybe the cases of tuberous sclerosis may be more so now because remember 78 is 45 years ago, so a lot has happened since then. And now I know medicines and the technology and the way they go about certain things has drastically improved. um, so but
That's great about advanced medicine, etc.
right, not just this condition. I had written in some of the comments, I wrote specifically, I know to one subscriber that if it gives somebody word of encouragement, then I've done my job, not just
Yes,
about my condition. Who am I not to say that me saying what I said, maybe I might run across a subscriber that may be experiencing similar symptoms? I don't know that.
that's right. You don't
So
know that. And that's absolutely the wonder of being on such a platform
it
like
is.
this. And I commend anyone that does this as well as you do.
Mhm.
Steve, we're going to take a short break to remind the folks. Now, don't leave, to remind the folks to please do this.
Yes, and definitely one thing people, it's a simple overlook that, and it's a simple overlook that anybody on YouTube can do. It's not done on purpose, but right where you subscribe, you have the image of a little bell. There's a little bell symbol. Make sure that's lit up. That way, all of the notifications from a certain subscriber will come in. I know that I've had a couple, maybe three, four subscribers in the past say, I know that you have a video going up, but I may not always get it right when it goes on. They may get it 2 hours later. But and
That's the truth. And don't
that
forget to subscribe to Steve's channel, by the way. If you're
not
listening, don't forget.
well. No, I appreciate that, but bottom line, coming back to where I was, make sure that little bell that's beside the subscribe is lit up. Make sure of that.
Excellent, huge point that Steve has very nicely pointed out. You got to tap the notification bell to stay in the loop.
Yeah.
Some people actually forget, they think they're still subscribed forever and ever. And then they go to find out, like, wait a minute, when did this happen? When did I unsubscribe? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Who knows? But double check if you like what you see. Steve, I'm going to completely switch gears. Steve, I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
If I was, let's say, decided to work in a garage on a project that required me hammering some nails manually in some wood, right?
Hmm.
But I make a mistake because for some reason I got distracted. And instead of hammering the nail in the wood, I hammered that nail in my finger. Well, let me ask you a question, Steve. If that nail was still stuck in my finger and I went into the house and I took some pain relief, tell me, what good is that?
Why are you going inside to get pain relief? Why aren't you going to a doctor to figure out a way to get that nail out?
Bingo! This is what people do not do about their financials.
Oh
They,
no, don't get me wrong. The pain relief would probably come further down the line.
well, it'll
But
calm it
why
down. It'll calm down the pain for a minute, but you never attack the real
no, why
problem.
are no, you address the nail. That's a big deal. How do you not you don't know where that nail has been?
Exactly. That is the quote elephant in the room. Now, people, Steve, I'm sorry. Am I wrong to feel this way? I have watched lately, and it comes up in my feed, enough shows, serious shows though, about tenants getting evicted, people on the brink, people right here who have jobs that are literally a paycheck away from financial devastation. If those people, anybody, if we know we're in like a problematic state and we don't do anything about it, it's like living with that nail and not getting it addressed and getting it removed. I wish people could understand that. Priorities, Steve, right? Do you not think that sometimes people like their priorities are in the wrong place? I'll give you an example, Steve. People that save for a vacation. Hey, don't get me wrong. We all like the thought of going on vacation, of course. Yay, yippee. But if your rent is due and you don't have the money and your money, well, you have the money, excuse me, but you want to go on vacation before you pay the rent. To me, something is amiss. There's something amiss in the priority thing. Or is it
Well,
just my imagination?
well, I'm gonna it's not funny, but the way this is gonna come out, it sounds funny. It's actually sarcastic. Well, if you don't pay your rent, you want to go on vacation. I promise you one thing, you'll be on vacation for a long time.
Yes.
That is one thing I can definitely promise you.
Yes.
No, well, me, and with the way things are with me, I can't even remember the last time I went on vacation. It's been so long now, it feels like a whole other lifetime. But no, priorities first. Make
Yes.
sure you got a roof over your head first before you do anything.
I like, okay, so I watched some of these. I'm not going to hold you up much longer, Steve, because I
Yeah.
know you have a life and you're a busy person. But what I'm thinking, I've seen enough of these eviction type videos right here on this platform where some people, I didn't know. How could a person not know that they stopped paying their rent? You didn't know? Did you think you're going to live in that place forever and ever for free?
Good luck.
No. And I'm just using that as the example, like the nail and the type thing. Here's the problem. Let's pretend the financials are that nail. If the financials are not addressed, spending more than you take in, not living within your means, never facing your numbers. Oh, I don't want to look at my numbers. Well, guess what? The greatest thing you could do is look at your numbers and get empowered. What do you think about that, Steve, about budgeting and keeping track of your money? What do you think about that?
Okay. Everybody, everybody can budget, and I've talked about this 100 times before, but everybody can budget. Everybody can save money. Um,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
And Steve does have a method, a specific method, and we've gone over that a number of times.
Oh, that, yeah. Pay your
But
bills.
right.
I can tell it to you right quick. Pay your
Oh,
bills,
good.
and keep in mind bills come due at different times during the month. So all you do is take whatever monies is left, divide it by however how many amount of days it is from the amount that you have, divided by whatever amount of days, and whatever that number is that you whatever comes up, 20, 30, 15. Try to live within that, and if you don't use it, or you do use it, stay within that. Anything that you don't use carries over, or if you don't use it at all, it still carries over. So that sometimes that can be another way to save money too. Even if you save $10 a month, it's better than nothing.
I am really glad you mentioned that. And Steve, thank you so much for being here. I
Hmm.
appreciate your time. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for viewing. Don't forget to head on over to the Steve Young, everywhere with Steve Young 74 channel. He has a random channel, but I happen to be on there many times, like on a weekend, and his own separate stuff that he talks about. You just never, ever know, which I kind of like that. How about you? Definitely, right, Steve? That's an amazing thing to do.
Hmm.
All right, everybody. Don't forget to come back in the future for some more shows on my own channel, the Instant Coffee with Jan show, 12:05 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Everything else I do, it's a bonus. All right, everybody. We're going to close out the show with this. Be right back with a wave. Anything else, or are you good to go?
No, that's it. I'm good.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. Don't forget to go to Steve's channel. Have a great, great Sunday. Taking a little longer to shut off. Hang on.